This is a follow-up video to the one I'd done previously about taking the pens apart. A couple people emailed me and said that they had the pens just spontaneously go off and shoot the liquid out, and of course, then you've lost your expensive Mounjaro. I'm going to take this apart with more of a thought to how things could go wrong, how to make sure they don't go wrong, and how all the internal parts work. I'm also going to leave the stopper in here. The stopper has a rubber end, um, has a rubber piece in there that if the pen gets discharged, the needle's going to go right into that rubber. I think if you accidentally discharge it, because that happens, you might still be able to recover it as long as this is still capped. So after I take it apart, I'm going to also refill it and then test that. So as always, our supplies are obviously a Moujaro pen, some bacteriostatic water, syringes, alcohol pads, and a vial to put the contents of this into. A few people asked why I add bacteriostatic water to what I get out of the pen. There are two reasons. One is that the amount of fluid in the pen is only half a milliliter, 50 units. And if you're trying to make smaller doses out of it, that's a really odd number and small number to work with. So I like to make sure that the mix ends up at least 100 units total or 150 units, depending on how you're going to divide it. If you're a person who's trying to do a 2.5 milligram dose out of a 15, there's no way you can measure that from the small amount of liquid in here. So taking it up to 150 units then lets you divide that into easily exactly the number. So 25 units would be 2.5 milligrams. 50 would be 5, uh, etc. So adding 1 milliliter of bacteriostatic water to the half a milliliter here gives you 150 units, and that's easy to divide because it's 15 milligram. Every 10 units is 1 milligram. That easy. I think one of the things that is key to a successful disassembly is having a proper set of pliers. Now, these are particularly high-end pliers that have a lot of adjustability, but I think you could do just as well with a standard channel lock style plier. As long as it's got some kind of a shape that will let you grab this really well. Um, if the pliers don't adjust and they're gripping it like this, you're probably gonna have some kind of a problem where it might twist in the wrong direction and shoot the pen off. The other thing I'm gonna do is last time I took it apart this way just because I'm right-handed and that's a natural thing to do. But that unlocks it. I think if you're taking it apart this way, if we rotate it towards the lock, I don't think it's possible for it to discharge because it's still locked. And I've taken this apart. The lock is in here, and this plunger cannot be pressed because there's a block right in here. So I think that's a fail-safe way to do it. Uh, so let's give this a try. Okay, it resists, and once I've kind of broken the little resistance there, what I'm doing here is pushing this upward while twisting. And I'm always twisting in that rotation that keeps things locked. And here we go. So you can see here that uh, nothing happened. It didn't get pushed or anything. So this is fine. Now we can take the rest of the pen apart. So we can see right here that the way the pen gets shot is to release this so that it falls into the pen. Um, there's a spring in here that will use that green plunger to push the fluid out. So we need to be sure not to press these inward. This is a little different than the first video because by taking it apart the other way, different parts came apart. So I'm a little anxious about how this will go, but let's see. So I just gave it a little twist and I pulled out, and here we go. And that is perfectly safe because those green bits that need to be released, there's no way they're going to accidentally get released. Keep your fingers away from that. Be super careful. Now we have the entire unit. And again, the only way this is being released is to press any of these green parts. What we want to do is take the syringe out without doing anything like that. And the syringe comes apart by taking this little plastic piece off. So I'm going to try and get as close as I can here and not block the shot to show you. This just needs to slide off, and it has a slight bit of resistance. Don't squeeze it this way, just barely touch it, and it will slide right out. Now, we've released this, and there is absolutely no way this can go wrong now. So I'm going to end up putting this back together and double check everything. But I think the key is make sure that those green parts up here cannot be pressed. So after I put this safely away in the vial, I'll show you. I just realized that I need the green plunger to push that out. So we're going to shoot this first to see how it goes and what you shouldn't do. Uh, so I believe as soon as you squeeze these, the green thing will shoot out. Wow, that is an amazing amount of pressure. It's hard to say how hard that was, but it bounced all over the room and the spring is gone. It's just crazy how much pressure is in there. One of the things a lot of people have asked me about is how much fluid is in here, whether it's consistent. Eli Lilly says it's half a milliliter, but others have reported as low as zero point 0.4 and as high as 0.6. Uh, so I'm going to weigh it before I put the fluid into the vial and see how much fluid was in there. It's going to be a rough calculation. The molecular weight of tirzepatide is about 950. So we'll have to weigh that against the first thing we're going to do is sterilize everything with the pads, clean the bacteriostatic water supply, clean the vial you're going into, and simply push it into the vial. We don't really care if we damage this needle. We're not ever going to use it. Take your green plunger and gently push it in. I like to turn on its side and just be careful with it. There's a tiny bit of tirzepatide left in there. It's hard to say exactly how much. It's a very tiny amount though. All right, so we're gonna weigh this, and we were at 59.5. Now we're at 51.5. So we've lost 8 grains of weight. I'll do the calculation on that later to see if it's accurate. And there we have our vial. So in this case, because of the dose that I'm taking, I'm doing 8 milligrams. I'm going to put half a liter of bacteriostatic water in it. So we draw our syringe to 50 units, half a milliliter. You want to put air into the vial. And then draw it back out to 50. You want to draw slowly enough so that you don't draw air into it. Air is not a big deal other than it makes you inaccurate. And there we go. We've got our mixed vial. Now, you could reuse this syringe to take the material back out of there to inject. Syringes are dirt cheap. I just don't mess around with that. Like I had a little problem going into it, so I don't know if I've lost any sharpness of the syringe. I'll use a different one to inject with. Safety is more important than the 15 cents it costs.